we have watched students go from writing those simple 1 or 2 sentences to short paragraphs over time when they use that tool.
I'm Cristina Janney with the Hayes Post and Eagle Radio, and I'm speaking with Andrea Wichers of the Special Education Cooperative about adaptive technology for students with disabilities on this episode of the Hayes Post podcast.
Since March was Disability Awareness Month and April is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, I thought it'd be a good time to kind of talk about actually how individuals with disabilities have been somewhat trailblazers, I like to think of it as, in developing supports that end up being tools that we can all use. So one thing I like to bring to mind, and I think we can all relate to, is like curb cuts and wheelchair ramps. So when we think of those were initially developed for people who use wheelchairs. Now it is a benefit for a lot of the population. You have elderly, parents who are pushing strollers, people who might be using crutches from an injury. So how technology type tools like that, when they're developed and they end up being beneficial for the whole population. And that is something I'm kind of excited about because our district has, in our cooperative, has kind of embraced that with some of our technology tool supports and our philosophy on like how not only can we help our students who have disabilities, but a lot of our tech tools that we purchased and provide benefit all students in our cooperative.
Well, what are some of those tools, Andrea?
So that's a great question. So our boss, Kyle Carlin, our special education director, purchased a literacy bundle. And this has been the one that we use and have available to every single student that is enrolled in one of our 5 school districts that is a part of our cooperative. And the first tool is called the UPAR, or it stands for Universal Protocol for Accommodations in Reading. It's a screening protocol. And what it does is it looks at how a student's brain is best able to learn written information. Like we're not doing brain imaging. They listen to some text, read text with their eyes, and it gives them how they then have questions. And it tells them at the end, like a little score, how they best comprehended, whether that was using their eyes or whether they did better when they listened to the text. And so what has created into that is students get to understand that, oh, I may be a struggling reader at grade level, or I don't understand this science or social studies material that's above my reading level when I try to read it with my eyes. But when I can listen to a text reader, which basically is pushing a button on our devices and it reads it to us, my comprehension is up to grade level. And that's a lot of fun to have that conversation with students. And you see confidence in students increase when they do that. And there's actual research behind this too. So like Berkeley, Harvard, and Yale, they have done studies over the past like 10 to 20 years now increasing brain imaging on this. So what it does is it has individuals come in and it has them hooked up to brain imaging, and it will have them read a passage of text with their eyes, and it will show like what areas of the brain are being lit up and activated. And then it has them listen to that same passage and have them, and it shows what areas of the brain are lit up. And they're very similar, if not exact in some studies.
Okay. You mentioned speech to text and how we use that every day. Can you expand on that and how that helps students in schools?
So speech to text is kind of opposite of what we text to speech, to where when we are using text to speech, the device reads the information to us, and then how we comprehend that. Speech to text allows us then to be able to be able to explain what we understood from that, or answer questions using our voice. We all do this, honestly. I probably use that in my daily life more than I use text to speech. I speak into my watch. I speak onto my device sometimes. I have written papers with my voice. And there's research and things that back that up as well. So that's what that does for students, is it allows them to let us know everything they might be able to understand and not write. So I my biggest example of this is when I work with students who have lower writing abilities. They, like with written or typing, they have to use a lot of cognitive demand just to do that fine motor too. And then you have the thinking process that comes with writing. So then they're just trying to come up with words and vocabulary and language structure. So a good example of that would be when a student might just be writing a sentence like, I like dogs. Well, when they are able to use speech to text, they can write, I like Boston Terrier dogs. So they are able to use a little bit higher level vocabulary terms. Their sentence structure increases. And again, that goes back to increasing student confidence and how they are able to describe what they know and write longer sentences, longer paragraphs even. So we have watched students go from writing those simple 1 or 2 sentences to short paragraphs over time when they use that tool.
You know, you talked about how some of these technology and these tools help students in other areas that may not have disabilities. And I was thinking about English language learners, you know, because they are using technology to help them translate and to help them learn the English language if they are not a native English speaker. So some of that technology helps them too. So, you know, it does help other students or students who are studying foreign language, you know, at the upper grades too, you know, being able to hear things and translate things using technology. I think that they're really good tools for all students.
Yes, 100%. And I kind of missed this part. I didn't say how many students we have had do that UPAR screening, the Universal Protocol for Accommodations in Reading. And we've actually had 2,200 students in our cooperative.
Wow, that's a lot.
Participate in this, about around 1,800 from 489 students. But then our outlying districts have also started to administer this. And what was really exciting, we had some of our students, some of our English language learners take this assessment. It is not written in Spanish. But these were happened to be Spanish speakers, and they took the assessment in English, and they were comprehending that material at grade level, which is something we don't always have a chance to understand and assess. So that goes back to how we hear stuff. That's going to develop sometimes quicker than they're able to express. Mm-hmm. And so that was really exciting for those students too, to know that they can use those support tools to help them in their curriculum and in their education. And then you mentioned the translation tools. As part of the literacy bundle that was purchased, we have a really high-tech translation tool. So it could, any English, like any language, up to, I think there's hundreds that were in one of the tools. We can take a picture of a document, convert it to the text reader, and then translate it to the language that we need to translate it to. So we've had it translated to Swahili, Spanish, a lot of the common ones, but also there were languages that we might not have a translator for, and it can translate the text for us.
Yeah, we think a lot of Spanish in this area, but I know that we have had students come into the district who speak other languages that are not Spanish. So mm-hmm. I think that helps here and other districts across the state. Andrea, as we wrap up here in our last minute, do you just want to give us some quick tools on how we can support students with disabilities in the community?
So if you see this, like if you see a student listening to a book, or maybe you know of a friend, a family that might have a struggling reader, a struggling writer, mentioning that, like using a text reader tool, and we have them on our devices, we have them on our phones, tablets. Those are tools to mention looking into, maybe asking a teacher on how that would work. And that's going to support our students with disabilities, or a student who is just struggling a little bit with reading or writing.